podcasts, movement videos, anything we can put out there to help bolster that knowledge and help increase that information base is how we're going to be doing it.
The other way you can fix that is never wear pants. What is going on, everyone? Hunter and Sher back for another edition you say? Edition of the Team Misfit Coaches Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Phase 2 for affiliates. So Phase 2 begins today, and today is not today for you listening. Today is Monday the 27th. We just wrapped up 2 week of Affiliate Games Week, and I think that went pretty well.
Yeah, right? For the reviews that I got from the members at our two gyms, the people were really excited to do some tests that like they got to see obviously on YouTube or on the game's website, and gave them the opportunity to figure out where their holes in their fitness lie, but wasn't after like 6 weeks and they have that nervous energy that comes around with retesting something they've already done before. So for a lot of that, like people at the gym, it was just exciting to do what felt like test workouts without having that preconceived notion or like that, the anxiety that goes along with test week.
I think a lot of people too, and what's cool about doing something like that every once in a while is like, we tried to modify the game's workouts. And for anybody who's interested, if you're an affiliate or an owner not listening, or you're listening but you're not subscribed, if you're not listening,
good luck.
If you're not subscribed but are listening, we still have those 2 affiliate weeks like available for download. They were programmed, they were put out totally for free, but we wrote them in such a way that it was like we provided the levels of kind of difficulty, like the RX, which was still most of the time, not always. There were some workouts that we gave affiliates the chance to do exactly as performed at the games, which was cool. But we modified them just a little bit to still make them like, hey, even like if affiliates have like some freaks, like let's see what you got. And then there's other folks who are just like, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to try. And there's the element of coaching where you have to say like, you know what, it's okay. Like this is a little bit more about fun and kind of seeing where you're at. It's almost like a mid-season checkpoint, because the open for a lot of folks is the other one where it's like, well, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not worried about how long it takes me. I'm just trying to, am I capable of doing it? And that was what I saw that like a lot of people were angry at me for making the clean ladder stop as low as it was, because they were like, we should have kept going. And I was like, you should have gone faster. Like,
yeah. I heard quite a few of those. And to me, that's what's fun about it too with the affiliate RX version. If CrossFit Games athlete goes to your gym, like they would still find that version very challenging. Maybe outside of the clean ladder, but I would just tell that person like you should be sprinting those 200s as fast as possible. But like, having gone through a handful of the tests, I didn't get the first week under my belt, but like very, very good inclusive event that allowed everybody, regardless of the skill level, to participate at your affiliate. And yes, it was delivered a little bit differently than our other, our normal PDF that our affiliates get. But, again, if you have no verse in Misfit, terminology, you've never done it before, but you just love that idea of running the CrossFit Games of your affiliate, this is an awesome opportunity for you to at least see what we offer as a programming company for affiliates. And I really do think your affiliate would have a good time with it. And like you said, it's a great way to kind of check in with everybody, even if you're not someone that does the test and retest model consistently.
Sure. Yeah. So to kind of taper us into the topic itself, like whereas we would normally provide a little bit more detail and maybe some instructions, the last 2 weeks were a little bit more about, hey, here's how to set up the floor. Here's how to make this a fun atmosphere. Maybe there's a little bit less, teaching. I don't want to say there was none. We certainly still taught and expect coaches to be teaching skills and drills and whatnot, but that's not what we do the other 50 weeks of the year. So when we get into, we're talking about Phase 2 now. So we're in kind of our season structure. We're also back lined up with our kind of senior cohort Misfit Athletics for timing wise. Yeah. The programming monster. We're still, this phase will be slightly different in the movements itself, but we're expecting that next phase 3, we're a little bit more back in line with the Misfit Athletic stuff, so that if you do have the coaches or maybe a really high level athlete, aspiring semifinals or games athlete, there's a little bit more alignment with the affiliate programming and the Misfit Athletic stuff. But we're just going to jump right in. We're going to talk about kind of the way that we program, in the sense of a lot of it is structured around the strength work. Despite our kind of both belief, strength is not like the kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as fitness goes, but that's just how it's easiest for us to structure the rest of the training. So our high CNS lift, as we refer to it, is basically what we're trying to get athletes to improve their 1 rep max on, or maybe it's a 5 rep max in the case of like a back squat or something like that. But this phase, it's a 1 rep max deadlift, and we're going to be, so athletes will test that and then retest it in 6 weeks. And we're going to mix in the PAP, or the post-activation potentiation stuff. And we saw a lot of good success with that in the back squat.
It worked awesome for the back squat. And you know what athletes really liked about it is I feel like they were able to get heavy lifts under their belt, but not feel completely damaged and beat up, because that is the problem with, you know, your average affiliate goer. They're not someone who's sleeping 10 hours a night, or, you know, only eating grass-fed meat and, you know, drinking, you know, all the electrolytes, everything they need to like perform at their best. So it's an opportunity for someone who is more of the casual CrossFitter to get really freaking strong. But at the same time, if you do have those athletes that do have that extra level of, you know, give a shit, they're going to get really strong. And we had athletes in our gym that have been doing CrossFit for going on nearly a decade get stronger. So like that was all the evidence. That's all the evidence we needed.
I hadn't PR'd my back squat in who knows how long. And it was after like a multi-day per week squat program. And then just the one. I mean, you followed Misfit Athletics like I did way back in the day when you had to do 2 or 3 days a week of just squatting, you know, but we were able to whittle it down to one single day. That was an entire class with some, you know, the PAP stuff that we're going to talk about here in a second. But that was 1 day a week for 7 weeks. And the amount of progress we saw was upwards of 70% of the gym PR'd. So like, you know, the proof is in the pudding there. Yeah. So the deadlift itself, the kind of sets and rep scheme, we won't go into detail. It's very similar to what we actually do for our competitive athletes on Misfit Athletics, but there's a little bit of additional work, because affiliate athletes in general maybe need a little bit more practice with the lift. But the PAP is basically, we're telling athletes to do an explosive, and in this case, hip-driven movement to kind of replicate the speed, the movement, the hinging pattern of the deadlift. So the kettlebell swing was the week 1 sort of, you know, after each set, do some kettlebell swings, but we're basically trying to capitalize on the fact that your body just lifted something really heavy and is now primed to move something much lighter very, very fast. So we're basically, and it adds a little bit of kind of, I don't want to say conditioning, but the high CNS day is our kind of lift only day as an affiliate. So all athletes are going to be doing is lifting really heavy and then have some kind of optional accessory stuff after. So I don't know if you want to add to like the PAP stuff at all.
Yeah,
or?
I mean, the reason, the science behind why that works is that when you start pulling those maximal loads, the force production, while still being very high, the acceleration of that mass that you're moving that gets you your force begins to drop dramatically. You just can't move as fast with heavy weight that you can with lightweight. So if you have an athlete who really struggles to create force production or can't really ever move a barbell with speed, it gives them the opportunity to create that force through very aggressive rapid acceleration, thinking like seated box jumps, kettlebell swings, wall balls for max height, those type of activities that basically anybody can participate in, that you don't need to be like that fast twitch athlete to develop, then helps bolster your strength, so that you have the opportunity for someone who maybe moves barbells slow to move fast, to get that adaptation that those fast movers get naturally when they move a barbell. So it kind of makes sure that everybody gets taken care of.
And for you kind of nerds out there, if you're familiar with that style of training, or if you go to Google it, you're going to be like, oh, this is kind of different than what they were saying. Keep in mind kind of the confines of a 60-minute class, your general population. There isn't enough time to rest. I think some articles say as much as like 12 minutes between your sets. And it's like, okay, so we're CrossFitifying this, and it worked really well for the squat. So it's like, whether it's on the internet or not.
We'll start writing a paper about it now so that we can get published, and then it can go into, you know, science.com.
Science.net. All right. Skill lift. What do you got?
The tempo snatch. So
more snatching. Come on, coach. I'm already good at it.
Debatable.
Questionable.
So one thing I really personally enjoyed was MisfitAthletics.com had the tempo snatch for our high level competitors. And, you know, it's one of those things when these movements first come out, or reintroduce something new to the community of misfits at large, that it's not quite done the correct way. People want to go a little too heavy, a little too fast, a little too complex before they kind of basically walk before they run. And to me, seeing athletes kind of figuring that out after week 1, being like, oh, like I definitely wasn't tempo, or my movement looked nothing like the ones that you posted on your, your social media feed, allowed athletes to recalibrate and to really think about how they moved. And the amount of progress I've seen just in the gym from the handful of people who follow MisfitAthletics.com, how much better they got at moving around a barbell. They haven't got to test the 1 rep max yet, but they've just gotten better at moving around a barbell, has allowed them to effectively raise their ceiling, because we call the snatch a skill lift, because you need an immense amount of skill to do it correctly. It doesn't matter how strong you are if you're not skilled in it. So this is one of those things where we're going to ask you to go very, very slow. And we're going to actually have a video for you all on how to execute this safely, as well as things that coaches can work with their athletes about, hey, we're at this part in the lift. This is what we're thinking about. We're at this part of the lift. This is what we're thinking about. And that is so that you can deliver this to your audience, which is your affiliate members. And if you can get them to go a little bit lighter and a little bit slower than they want to for 7 straight weeks, when you get to retest that 1 rep max snatch, which is coming up very soon, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. And people are going to be like, I never lifted heavier than like 60% of my max. How did I get better? And it's because you got better at the skill of it.
Yep. Yeah. And I just had one of my like personal athletes experience that. I was like, what was the heaviest you snatched all phase after doing tempo snatching? And it was like probably around the lines of like 70 or 75% of his best snatch, like the heaviest that he went, and he PR'd his snatch. So yes.
By 30 pounds.
Yeah. By a lot of pounds. So getting your athletes to slow down, that's what's going to move the needle for them. And as a kind of teaser looking ahead, next phase is a more structured snatch, kind of once a week. It'll be the lift only day where athletes can, put their percentages on the bar. So we're kind of teeing them up to perform really well next phase, to actually get that 1 rep max stronger by working on the positions here. For our gymnastics this phase, we're gonna alternate kind of weeks between pull-ups, specifically strict, and maybe on the higher rep range for a couple of these weeks. So like things like banded strict pull-ups, I know you're a huge fan of them. I mean, I am too. You do them a little bit more than I do. And then bar muscle ups. So kind of more of a skill component there. We'll provide you guys with some options, but those are going to be our gymnastics focus, and the gymnastics test that you're going to do on day 2 has a pretty hefty dose, a pretty solid dose of both of those movements. And again, kind of sidetracking just a tiny bit. The purpose of these tests is to kind of put athletes in not an open-esque environment. It's very difficult to replicate the kind of that feel in the environment once every 7 weeks or twice every 7 weeks if you include retest. But we're trying to put a little bit of a wow factor, not for the sake of writing something cool on a piece of paper, but like, hey, athletes, like, learn what you can do, see what you're capable of now. And the goal is that hopefully it's outside of what you're currently able to do really well. And with 5 to 6 weeks of practice on at least some of this stuff once a week, and you're actually focusing on it, you can show some improvement 6 weeks down the road and be like, wow, that actually did pay off.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's all well and good to be able to write a hard workout, but we've used this before on a podcast. But anybody can write a hard workout. It's what can you learn from it, and that's really the essence of like the reason why we do tests and retests is what can you learn and what can you teach people when they go through that. Not just I went faster because I did fewer sets. Like there's a lot to be learned here, and I really don't want to underemphasize how important the banded pull-ups are. Like for all of the things that we talk about, the reason why we do the PAP is to create that force production, is because, certain people cannot move heavier weights fast. That goes with your body weight as well. If you're someone that really struggles with body weight gymnastics, you have to find a way to make yourself quote unquote lighter. And for something it's impossible. It's not really easy to make yourself lighter in a handstand push-up unless you bring up some pulley system to your ankles. But for the pull-up,
I got those new Reebok Heliums.
That's right. But for the pull-up, use a band, focus on your line of action, being straight up and down and moving fast. You're going to get better at strict pull-ups, which means that you're going to do better in the conditioning test. So while I know there are going to be some people who come to your class and are like, I haven't done a banded pull-up since NAM, like, you're going to do some banded pull-ups. You're going to get better at them, and you're going to do better in your retest, and you'll know why you did those banded pull-ups at the very end. So just bear with us, get the buy-in that you want. If you guys communicate it, that this is all about getting better, not just, this isn't something different. Like, people are going to buy in better. So that to me, that's one of those things where I really want to hammer that home, that while it's a little bit of a unique thing for your RX athletes to do banded pull-ups, they're going to be doing some banded pull-ups. Moving on into the in-WOD test for this phase, as well as the conditioning test. You're going to find a 1 rep max shoulder to overhead at the end of a very long conditioning piece. Hunter and I are both of the belief here that one thing that we'd like to see athletes do a lot better job of is not resting as much mid-workout, and specifically teeing up workouts to allow them to do so. So anytime you guys go to our programming and you see conditioning as the stimulus provided as the goal there, or cardio, excuse me, was conditioning, now it's cardio, excuse me. When you see that word, you have to assume that most people are not going to understand it the same way that you understand it. And it's not cardio, like I'm going to go walk on a treadmill for a half hour. It's, hey, I should have no reason to stop other than my own willingness to keep moving. But nothing in the workout slams the brakes on because it's too heavy, too complex, too advanced for that athlete's ability. So in this phase, particularly, you're going to have a running, power clean, and bar facing burpee workout that is going to take most people all the way up to the cap in class. And honestly, if it's a test the way it should be done, some people should not finish it, but the 80% should, and they should have a version that allows them to stay moving at a quick pace the entire time. And what's nice about this is that your best movers, people who are most efficient, get rewarded with a little extra time to play with that heavy barbell. So I'm very excited to see people do well at this test, but I'm more excited about it because when it comes time to like taking what we do in the CrossFit gym and having it translate to real life, like you should be able to move your body for like 30 straight minutes, which is something you're going to get trained in your test to do in your class today. So to me, that's super valuable.
And just to like kind of provide a little bit of context, we're kind of going through categories here. Sherb said in WOD, basically when we're writing, when our massive like year-long template, so we know we want to get people stronger each phase at a lift. So that's the high CNS category. Then we've got our skill, our gymnastics, our in workout is kind of like our, hey, it's usually something that maybe we're not hitting directly. And some weeks you will do some shoulder to overhead, and other weeks it's just going to be straight cardio. It's just going to be straight cardio for the day. Sometimes it's difficult to fit that into an affiliate program where you're doing like, it's hard longer. Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes a long piece is hard. A 40-minute workout, when you add in the, whiteboard time, warm up, everybody goes to the bathroom 10 seconds before you hit 10 seconds on the timer. It can be difficult.
And we feel bad about that too, because if you do that, sometimes you're like, what am I teaching someone? If the class workout takes the entire class, how do I provide any value to these members other than just giving them a workout and turn the clock on?
Yeah, for sure. And there is a lot of value for that person, for the athlete. And hey, you're going to exercise for 40 minutes today. And
good luck to you.
Yeah. Enjoy. Okay, rifling through kind of our last couple categories here. Once a week, we're going to alternate between front and back squat. We haven't done a back squat phase specifically in a little while. That is coming. That is scheduled. That is intentionally scheduled at a specific time. But in the meantime, we obviously want to maintain some of that squat strength. So you guys will get alternating weeks of just general GPP, general physical preparedness, back squatting and front squatting. So probably not a lot of percentage work associated with it. We're not necessarily trying to have athletes PR either of those two lifts, rather kind of maintain their capacity to do them at a pretty high percentage.
And the way you just explained the in-WOD lifting, the GPP, the idea behind that is that we want athletes having a varied stimulus to this, and that, back squat and front squat are a part of our sport, not something that we test all that often, like in the open, for example, but we want to make sure we kind of circle around and touch those things from time to time. And, there's some really good, like hard evidence we've seen in the affiliate where like people do not do a phase of a certain lift, but just get in better shape and then PR that lift. How did that happen?
We just saw this morning, we had like 13 out of the like however many people who came into the gym this morning. We haven't done like a heavy conventional, especially. We sumo deadlifted not that long ago, but
6 months ago.
Yeah, like 6 months, I guess, not even that recently. And people PR'd their 1 rep max conventional deadlift. After not having done it for a while.
Yeah. So if you're wondering what I was going with that is that if you're, seeing that and you're like, oh, it's 5x5 this week, then it's pause, then it's triples. What's I don't get it. There's no pattern because people get used to patterns. The idea there is there's going to be a good bit of variance, the same way we want variance in Metcons every once in a while when we're training strength, specifically when it comes to GPP. We're going to have lots of variance there. So, this won't be something that builds week to week. You're not going to do 5s week 1 and 4s week 2 and then 3s week 3. Like you're going to kind of work your way through that in a little bit more of what feels like a varied fashion.
Yep. And then finally, you could.
Moving on last. One of the things that we strongly believe in here is if you're going to get someone better at pressing, you got to do it often. You got to do it quite a bit. So the competitor extra lift is going to be a strict press / a push press. And the idea there is that some weeks you're going to be hitting just heavy strict presses. Some weeks it's just heavy push presses. And some weeks it's going to be a little bit of a fun combo between maybe you start with strict press, and when you can no longer strict press, it turns into a push press without racking the bar, or you got to do a static hold overhead into a set of push presses. So again, has a little bit of a GPP feel to it, but we really do want your athletes realizing that if you want to get better at pressing, you have to do it very often, and to think about how pressing in these environments then leads to be able to do better burpees, better muscle ups, better handstand push-ups. So, this is one of those things where a lot of times people are like, oh, strict press, push press, low skill. I'll just kind of, go through the motions, really try to emphasize how you move. Think about the way your torso is stacked, how you're bracing, how your weight is distributed on your feet, and all those things will carry over to then, better handstand push-ups and a heavier strict press and push press.
Absolutely. Cool. I think that kind of wraps up the phase as a whole. Keep in mind, like, if you're an affiliate, if you're not currently an affiliate and you're just like, oh, this stuff sounds good. One, you can get a free 2-week sample. Head to teammisfit.com, or if you're in the SugarWOD marketplace, you can just simply sign up and you'll get the current 2 weeks, and if you play your cards right, it's actually 3, because we publish the next week on like a Thursday. But, yeah, I know. But, all that stuff is in there. We post this stuff so we can get the information out to you. Head to our Instagram, the @TeamMisfitGyms handle. That's where we publish a lot of our kind of coaching tips. Like, hey, you've got this coming up tomorrow. Here's a skill progression. Here's a way to scale. Here's something to look for in your athletes to make sure they're doing it right. And we're going to continue to do that so that you guys can, one, coaches, you guys are developing, you guys are figuring out different ways to, kind of crack the nut that is coaching an affiliate athlete. And then 2, just to make sure that we realize a lot of you listening and following aren't coaches or aren't subscribed, but you are kind of increasing that athlete IQ that we always like to talk about, so that you can maximize your affiliate programming and kind of achieve the goals that you want, whether that's losing some weight or, hey, I want to be a competitor or something like that.
Yeah, we want you coaches out there to be basically a Swiss Army knife. You can help the high-level competitors. You can help the everyday CrossFitters. Anywhere in between. You don't have the range. You don't want to be stuck in a niche. Like you don't want to get caught, with your pants down, so to speak, where someone comes up to you with a question that you're like, oh, I only know how to help this person, not that person. So that's why we're constantly committed to developing as many different podcasts, movement videos, anything we can put out there to help bolster that knowledge and help increase that information base. Is we're going to be doing it.
The other way you can fix that is never wear pants.
Pro tip.
There it is. That is the Phase 2 podcast. You guys can head to teammisfit.com. Send us any questions that you have about the programming, or download that 2-week sample, or you can head to the SugarWOD marketplace and sign up for a free 2-week trial. We're excited about Phase 2. We want you guys to get on board. And if you jump in a little bit late, no worries. Just jump right in where kind of the programming puts you, and make sure you tag us @TeamMisfitGyms, and we'll see you on the leaderboards.